Hey guys, I'm just going to go over my extended standard cube here real quick so we know what we're getting ourselves into when we start drafting it. Okay, I've defined extended standard as what is currently standard legal, plus the sets that have just rotated out. So we're going to be drafting Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, Dominaria, M19, Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark, M20, and Throne of Eldraine. All right, I think I'm just going to go over the two color pairs here really quick because 95% of the decks you're going to draft are going to be just two color combinations. All right, we're going to start with Azorius. Azorius is primarily going to be a control color. You've got cards like Absorb, which counter a spell, you gain 3 life. Teferi Time Raveler, you can cast spells. Your opponents can only cast spells anytime they can cast a sorcery, so this denies them their preferred play pattern. +1, you get until your next turn. You can cast a sorcery spell as though they had flash. This is really great with board wipes since they are sorcery speed. And his -3 is return up to one target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand. So you're going to deny your opponent tempo while drawing into your finisher. And then you've got Big Teferi. He draws you cards and untaps lands at the end of your turn, which is great for holding up counter magic. His -3, put target non-land permanent into its owner's library, third from the top. You could potentially time walk your opponent and get rid of threats to you. And then if you manage to get to his ult, you will win the game because whenever you draw a card, you exile permanent they control. So, Dimir, all right, blue-black. I think this is going to be the two solid decks you can build from this. You can build blue-black control with cards like Thought Erasure. It's basically a Thought Seize for blue-black that doesn't lose your life and you get to surveil. You have Thief of Sanity, which is a 2/2 flyer that can net you card advantage, which is the name of the game for control. And then you have cards like Hostage Taker, which you can definitely play in a control deck, but I think works probably best in a tempo deck. There's a lot of good blue and black flyers, so if you're going to play the tempo deck, you want blue board disruption with cheap black removal, and then cards like Hostage Taker, which are just going to remove your opponent's threats, allowing you to attack in, and then you can even cast them when you have the mana, especially when your hand starts to get low. All right, Rakdos. Rakdos is going to be fast and furious and a lot of little guys. You have cards like Fireblade Artist. He's a 2/2 haste creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can sacrifice a creature. And when you do, it deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So if you have little 1/1s that you don't care about, you can just sacrifice them and throw them at your opponent's face. Bedevil, classic black-red, really efficient removal. Then Judith, the Scourge Diva. Other creatures you control get +1 attack, and whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith, the Scourge Diva deals 1 damage to any target. Sorry, alarm going off. Alright, Gruul. Gruul is going to be green-red Stompy. Alright, so we have Domri, Anarch of Bolas. Creatures you control get 1 attack, which is great. His +1 is add a red or green mana. His creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. That's great. It ramps you and it gives mid-range the boost they need against control by not having their creatures countered. And then his -2 is you can have a creature you control fight another target creature you don't control. And green-red, your creatures are probably going to be bigger than your opponent, so this is a great ability to have. Rhythm of the Wild. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Again, mid-range struggles against control generally, so that's a really great ability to have. And non-token creatures you control have Riot. And Riot is when your creature enters the battlefield, it'll trigger and you get the choice of getting a 1/1 counter or giving the creature haste. Both great options. And then you have Grand Warlord Raja. 3/4 haste, which is great. And then whenever one or more creatures you attack, you add that much mana in any combination of red or green. And then until end of turn, you don't lose mana. So this is going to ramp you by however many creatures you're attacking with, right? Because red-green, you're trying to get to your 6-drop, maybe even your 7-drop. Really great and aggressive mid-range deck. All right, Selesnya. Selesnya, I think the premier deck is going to be green-white tokens, which is going to be like an aggressive mid-range deck. We've got the Knight of Autumn, which pretty much goes in any green-white deck. It's just super efficient. It comes out as either a 4/3 or a 2/1 that destroys an artifact enchantment or gains you 4 life. So it's really great in any stage of the game. Then we have Shalai, Voice of Plenty, 3/4 Angel for 4, which is great. And then it gives you, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control, hexproof. So they have to deal, if they want to use a spell to deal with your creature, they have to deal with this angel before your other creatures. And then for 6, you can put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Obviously, that's going to get better the more creatures you have on the board, so you're going to want to go wide. And then you have Tristani Discordant. For 5, it's a 1/4, but it gives all your other creatures +1/+1. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink, which will be 2/2 with the Anthem. And then at the beginning of your end step, each player gains control of all creatures they own. In this cube, there's actually quite a few blue effects that steal from your opponent, so this actually might be quite relevant. All right, Orzhov, Black-White. Black-White, I think, is primarily going to be an aggressive Knights deck. So you're going to look for Knight payoff cards, like Ariel, Knight of Windgrace. It's a 4/4 Vigilance. And for 2 and a white, and you have to tap it, you can create a 2/2 White Knight creature token with Vigilance. Having Vigilance on this card is key because you can both attack and create the token in the same turn, or at the end of your opponent's turn. And then for black tap, you can tap as many knights as you control and destroy target creature with power X or less. So obviously the more knights you have on the board, the better that gets. There are also other knight payoff cards in the mono white and black section. You can just keep an eye out for that. You can also, I believe, build a black-white control deck where you're using black and white's just super efficient removal to get you to the late game where you can cast your creatures, your big creatures that'll end up winning you the game. We have here Seraph of the Scales. It's a 4/3 flyer, which isn't the biggest creature out there, but you can give it Vigilance for a white or Death Touch for black. But I think the real key to this card is the Afterlife too. So even when it dies, you're going to get 2 1/1 flyers, which can keep you in the game that much longer, so you can build up to your big threats. So Black-White Knights, or it's going to be an aggressive deck, or you're going to look for black-white control, where you're just looking for removal and trying to stay alive until the end. Golgari is going to primarily be a mid-range deck. You're going to use greens early ramp using mana dorks, and black's efficient removal to get you to your 4, 5, and 6 drops. So you have Assassin's Trophy, just super efficient removal. Vraska, this is an interesting planeswalker. You can uptick 2 to sacrifice another permanent. If you do, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So you can sacrifice food tokens or just little 1/1 dorks that you don't really care about. Black also has creatures that create tokens when they die, so they're just asking to die anyways, and that can allow you to use her -3 more than once, which is destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. It's basically an abrupt decay for -3. If you choose to, you can do her -9, which is her ultimate, and you get an emblem that says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So you have anything with evasion, if you get to her ultimate, you're just going to win the game outright. And then you have Garruk, Cursed Huntsman for 6. His 0 creates 2 2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens. When this creature dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garruk you control. Hope you see the synergy between these two cards. You can create the tokens, sacrifice them here, drawing cards while putting loyalty on your Garruk, and then you can down tick him to destroy a target creature and draw a card, or you can do as a -6 to give you an emblem that says creatures you control get +3/+3 and have trample. So if you can do this along with continuing to create the wolves, you're going to win the game. Simic is going to be like a blue-green ramp deck or a blue-green like tempo flash style. So we have Growth Spiral, blue-green, draw a card. You can put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So this allows you to ramp while replacing the card in your hand, so you don't go down in cards. Rolisk Apex Hybrid. He's a 4/5 flying trampler. And when he enters the battlefield, you get to put 2/1/1 counters on another target creature you control. There's definitely a 1/1 counter and proliferate theme that you can play on in here. And when he dies, you proliferate, and then you proliferate again. So if you have any 1/1 counters or loyalty counters on your planeswalkers, you just get to put extra ones on them. And then you have Hydroid Krasis, which when he enters the battlefield, you get to draw cards and gain life. You're really going to want to pay X equals 4 or greater to get the most out of here. If you do X equals 4, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards, which is just fantastic. So anyways, you're looking for either blue-green ramp or blue-green flash. Is it? I think primarily this is going to be a tempo or like an aggro control style of play. You have cards like Ionize, which counters spells but also deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. Saheeli, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to a 1/1 colorless servo, so this can really just generate a lot of value over the game. And then her -2 can turn an artifact you control into another target creature or artifact you control until the end of turn. So this is especially brutal if you have a great creature that is also not legendary, so you can have 2 of them out on the board. If you are trying to copy a legendary creature, you're going to have to choose one of them to keep and one of them to put in your graveyard. So just keep that in mind. And then you have the Royal Scions, which is a really great reason to play blue-red. +1, draw a card, discard a card. Tempo is trying to make sure you have card quality in hand, so you're going to get rid of cards that you don't need to draw into cards that you do. The other +1 is give a creature you control +2 attack, and give it first strike and trample. This is going to make basically anything a threat that is not going to be profitable to block. It's fantastic. And the -8 is draw 4 cards. When you do, it deals damage to target equal to the number of cards in your hand. So it's only 8, which is 3 upticks, and you get to draw 4 cards off of it, which is insane. And then you get to deal at least 4 damage to something. Could be more if you have more cards in your hand. So just a really fantastic card, and I think primarily it's going to be a tempo deck where you're looking for red, cheap red instants and sorceries that clear the board and allow your little guys to just get in there. Maybe pick up some blue flyers. And then Boros. Boros is primarily going to be like a go-wide aggro deck. You're looking for cheap white and red creatures that are just really fast. You got cards like Justice Strike, red-white. Target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. This is basically just a kill spell. It kills something like 85% of the creatures in the cube. So just really efficient. Tajic, 3/2 haste. It's got Mentor, which allows you to put a counter on another attacking creature when this creature attacks that has less power. It has another clause in it: prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. So this could be good against if you're facing another red deck that has bolts and shocks, because they can't kill your creatures with non-combat damage. And then for red-white, you can give the creature first strike. Then we have Aurelia. For 4, she's a 2/5 flyer, which doesn't sound great, but she has Mentor, which allows you to put counters on creatures that are attacking another creature you're attacking that has less power. But her real power comes from the beginning of combat on your turn. You can choose up to 1 target creature you control. Until end of turn, that creature gains 2 attack, and then trample if it's red, or vigilance if it's white. So on the turn it comes down, you can pump another creature that you control that's targeting. And then when she can attack, she can target herself, making herself a 4/5 flying vigilance trampler that also has Mentor. Just really great. So primarily a red-white go-wide deck. I do think if you draft right, you could probably draft what I like to call big red, where you're using white's removal and board wipes, and red has a couple of ways to clear the board as well, where you're going to just survive until you can get to your big drop. So anyways, that was a really quick overview of the 2 color pairings. Take a look over the cube list in general to get a better idea of what's in it. But that's gonna be the bread and butter of your drafts. All right. Well, thanks for watching. See you later.